The Ivor Collective sat in a dimly lit chamber, their faces etched with skepticism as they debated the emerging threat of Earth. For years, they had dismissed the human race as insignificant, a primitive species confined to a small, unremarkable planet at the edge of known space. Yet, recent reports from scouts and intercepted communications had painted a different picture. The humans, it seemed, had begun to expand, to venture beyond their homeworld with surprising speed and ambition. Some in the coalition viewed them with growing concern, calling them Deathworlders, due to the harshness of their home environment and the resilience it seemed to instill in them. Others scoffed at the term, confident that humanity, like so many other species before, could be subdued with enough pressure. The debate grew heated. One faction argued that the humans were a potential threat, unpredictable and reckless, while another dismissed them as mere opportunists, lucky to have survived so long on a world so unforgiving. In the end, the coalition reached a decision. A reconnaissance mission would be dispatched to Earth to observe the humans up close, to assess their true nature, and to find their weaknesses. They believed that by studying the humans in their natural environment, they could learn how to neutralize any potential threat they posed. The Ivor leaders agreed unanimously. They would send their best spies and biologists, armed with the most advanced technology the galaxy had to offer. They were convinced this would be a simple task. The team assembled was elite, comprised of the most skilled operatives from across the coalition. Experts in stealth and surveillance, these aliens had infiltrated countless worlds without detection. They had been equipped with the latest in cloaking technology, devices that could render them invisible to the naked eye and to all known scanning methods. Their confidence bordered on arrogance. They had never encountered a species they couldn't outsmart or evade. The team leader, a veteran spy known for his ruthless efficiency, assured the council that the mission would be straightforward. The humans would be studied, their behaviors catalogued, their weaknesses identified. The coalition's leaders nodded in agreement, satisfied with their choice. With their preparations complete, the team set off for Earth, a small blue dot in a distant corner of the galaxy. They arrived in Earth's orbit undetected, their cloaking technology masking their presence from the primitive human satellites and ground-based radar. From their vantage point, they studied the planet below, a world teeming with life, yet marked by extremes. They observed vast deserts where temperatures soared to unbearable levels, frigid ice caps that could freeze a being solid in minutes, and dense jungles filled with unknown dangers. They chose a remote region, far from any human settlements, a place they deemed ideal for their reconnaissance. They believed that this harsh environment would expose the limits of human resilience. As the aliens descended to the surface, they marveled at their own stealth. Their craft made no sound, left no trail. They moved silently, setting up their observation posts in concealed locations, confident that they were completely invisible to human eyes. They deployed drones equipped with sensors to monitor human activity and began their surveillance, expecting to observe a species that struggled against its own world, a species that had grown strong through necessity but was still fundamentally flawed and primitive. From their hidden vantage points, the aliens waited, convinced that their superior technology would keep them safe, convinced that their mission would be simple. They had no doubt that the humans, if they appeared at all, would be unaware, unprepared, and easily monitored. In their arrogance, they believed they had outmaneuvered the Deathworlders before the game had even begun. From their concealed positions, the aliens began their observations, expecting to see humans struggling against the planet's brutal elements. Yet what they witnessed defied their expectations. In the scorching deserts, they saw humans moving with purpose and ease, their bodies covered in lightweight fabrics that shielded them from the sun's relentless heat. They dug into the sand to find water, using tools fashioned from the very materials around them, constructing makeshift shelters that seemed almost too simple to work, but they did. In the icy tundras, humans navigated the frozen landscape with a confidence that seemed almost reckless. They built fires from limited resources, fashioned clothing that insulated them against the bitter cold, and traveled across vast expanses of snow with nothing more than basic equipment and determination. In dense forests filled with hidden dangers, the aliens watched humans traverse terrain that should have been impassable. They moved through thick underbrush with agility, using machetes to clear paths and setting traps for dangerous wildlife that seemed to lurk at every turn. They found food where none seemed to exist, crafting snares and fishing with makeshift lines, adapting to each new obstacle with a speed and resourcefulness that was unnerving. The aliens recorded these behaviors, puzzled by the ease with which humans seemed to conquer environments that would challenge even the most advanced species. At first, the aliens wrote these observations off as mere outliers, exceptional cases of individual human resilience. But as the days passed, a pattern began to emerge. They saw groups of humans, large and small, demonstrating similar traits: rapid adaptation, problem-solving in real time, and a relentless drive to survive and thrive in any condition. The aliens were confounded. They had expected a species that struggled against its world, but instead, they saw a species that had mastered it, using the planet's diversity not as a hindrance but as a proving ground for their capabilities. Then, things started to feel off. The aliens began to notice subtle signs that something was wrong. A human would pause mid-step, looking around as if sensing something unseen. Another would change direction unexpectedly, moving closer to where the aliens were hidden. In one instance, a group of humans suddenly halted their march through a forest, their leader making a hand signal that brought them all to a crouch. They scanned the treetops, their eyes narrowing, before continuing in a new formation, more alert than before. The aliens dismissed these moments as coincidences, attributing them to random human paranoia or perhaps an overreaction to their environment. But the signs kept coming. A human camp was suddenly relocated with no warning, just as the aliens had moved closer to gather samples. Drones sent to observe up close began to experience signal interference, and several went offline entirely. The aliens started noticing that human technology, primitive as it seemed, began to mirror their own equipment's frequency, as if trying to scan for something hidden. The aliens shrugged it off, believing it to be nothing more than a fluke, a random crossing of signals. However, it wasn't long before their own equipment began to malfunction. First, it was minor glitches, cameras flickering, data feeds cutting in and out, but soon it became more frequent. Their cloaking devices, designed to be undetectable, began to fail intermittently, exposing them for moments at a time. It was impossible, they thought, for any species, let alone humans, to detect them. Yet their devices, the pinnacle of their technological advancements, were inexplicably faltering. Growing uneasy, the aliens convened to discuss these anomalies. Some argued that it was simply a result of Earth's chaotic electromagnetic fields, the byproduct of a volatile planet. Others, however, began to suspect that something more was at play. A sense of discomfort settled over the team. They had come to observe humans in their natural habitat, to learn and exploit their weaknesses. But now, they were starting to wonder if they had underestimated this species on a fundamental level. Their confidence, so absolute at the mission's outset, began to waver ever so slightly. Yet, they remained convinced they held the advantage. After all, their technology was the best in the galaxy. Surely, nothing could compromise that. The aliens continued their observations, but their confidence had begun to wane. What had started as a straightforward mission was becoming increasingly unsettling. They noticed humans moving with an unusual sense of direction, heading towards the areas where the aliens had established their hidden posts. At first, the movements seemed random, but soon the pattern became undeniable. Groups of humans, equipped with gear that seemed to be for more than just exploration, began setting up devices in strategic locations. The aliens watched closely, realizing these were surveillance tools, primitive by their standards, but effective. As days passed, the humans' actions grew bolder. They moved with purpose, setting up observation points in positions that suggested they were mapping the terrain for more than just scientific curiosity. The aliens observed humans marking paths, clearing lines of sight, and installing what appeared to be scanners that pulsed in rhythmic patterns. They began to notice that these human teams communicated silently, with gestures and brief, concise words. The aliens felt the first prick of unease. These movements were not random. The humans were searching for something, and the realization hit that they were systematically narrowing down locations, heading directly toward where the aliens were hiding. The aliens' equipment, already suffering from unexplained malfunctions, began to fail entirely in some areas. Sensors went offline without warning, and their communication devices crackled with static. When they tried to relocate, they found themselves facing subtle obstacles. Paths they had used to move undetected now had signs of human activity, traps disguised as harmless natural debris, tripwires set up with a precision that was unnerving. One by one, their cloaked drones were disabled, seemingly by accident, until none remained in operation. The aliens realized with a jolt that the humans were not only aware of them, but were actively countering their every move. Panic started to spread among the alien team. They had expected to observe and learn in secret, but it was becoming clear that the humans were aware of their presence, and worse, were beginning to hunt them. Attempts to retreat and find safer locations were met with unexpected resistance. Every effort to move away was thwarted by sudden human activity. It was as if the humans knew exactly where they intended to go before they even got there. Several of the aliens decided to regroup and try to escape deeper into the wilderness, but every step seemed preempted, every move countered by an unseen force. The team's leader, once so confident in their superiority, began to sense the full scale of their miscalculation. The humans had turned the reconnaissance mission on its head. They were no longer the prey, they were the hunters. He saw the signs everywhere now, how the humans were always a step ahead, how they were closing the noose around them with a precision that was terrifying in its subtlety. The realization struck like a cold wave. The humans were not fumbling in the dark. They were executing a well-planned strategy. An order was given to abandon the mission and attempt to extract, but by then, it was too late. The humans had anticipated this move. Escape routes were cut off, paths blocked, and any attempt to communicate with the orbiting ships was met with interference. The aliens, who had once felt invincible behind their cloaking technology and superior tactics, now felt exposed, vulnerable. They had underestimated the humans at every turn. They had assumed that they were the ones doing the observing, the studying, but in truth, the humans had been observing them all along. What began as a reconnaissance mission had transformed into a desperate bid for survival. The situation had devolved into chaos. The aliens, once so assured of their superiority, were now scrambling. They attempted every evasive tactic they knew, using their remaining technology to obscure their presence and find a way out of the tightening human net. They activated holographic decoys, used terrain mapping algorithms to find hidden paths, and employed jamming devices to block human signals. But every maneuver seemed futile. The humans were always there, waiting, as if they had predicted every move before it was made. With every failed attempt at evasion, the alien team's fear grew. They could feel it in the way their breath quickened, in the nervous glances they exchanged, and the sharp, clipped voices over their failing communication channels. Their technology, once their greatest advantage, now seemed inadequate. The humans were closing in, slowly but surely, with a relentless precision that seemed almost mechanical. The aliens began to see humans not as individual creatures but as a coordinated, singular force, focused, determined, and utterly relentless. The reality sank in. These Deathworlders were not just surviving, they were thriving in the hunt. Panic rippled through the team as they realized that for the humans, this was not an extraordinary effort. This was a natural response, an instinct bred from living on a planet that had challenged them at every turn. They remembered the tales they had heard but never believed, stories of humans who fought apex predators, endured natural disasters, and adapted to every possible form of danger without hesitation. Now, faced with the evidence of their own eyes, they understood that these tales were not exaggerations. Humans had become masters of survival and conflict, honed by the very environment they had been born into. Some aliens tried to hide, finding caves or thick foliage to conceal themselves, but even these hiding spots seemed to offer no safety. The humans' ability to track them was uncanny. They moved as if guided by some unseen force, closing off every path of escape. The aliens' last drones were disabled one by one, and the few that remained sent back only images of humans advancing steadily, eyes sharp and focused, weapons at the ready. Fear was no longer a creeping sensation. It was a crushing weight that bore down on the alien team. They could see no way out, and their movements became frantic. They whispered among themselves, trying to make sense of the humans' capabilities, their seemingly endless ingenuity. Every plan was thwarted, every escape route cut off. They were being herded, directed towards a confrontation they had no chance of winning. The realization was crushing. They had misjudged everything. Cornered in a narrow ravine, their backs against a wall of stone, the aliens prepared for what they knew would be their final stand. Their leader, who had once spoken with confidence about how simple the mission would be, now felt the weight of his own arrogance. The humans had outmaneuvered them at every step, turning their superior technology into useless metal and circuits. The aliens took up defensive positions, their hands trembling, their eyes wide with dread. They had no more tricks left, no more secret technologies to rely on. The humans had forced them into a position where only their willpower and wits would matter, and in that, the aliens knew they were outmatched. The humans emerged from the shadows, their faces calm, their movements steady. There was no anger, no rush, just a determined resolve that sent chills through the alien ranks. The aliens could feel their instincts screaming at them to flee, but there was nowhere left to go. They had come to Earth to study and conquer, but instead, they had found themselves outmatched and outwitted. For the first time, they truly understood why humanity was called a Deathworlder species, not because of their planet, but because of the spirit it had forged within them. As the humans closed in, the aliens prepared themselves, knowing that this would be their last stand. They realized, too late, that they had underestimated the depth of human tenacity, the creativity born from constant adversity, and the strength that came from being a species that thrived where others would have perished. They had thought they were the predators, but now they knew the truth. They were the prey, caught in a game they never even understood. The few surviving aliens, battered and wounded, finally managed to escape Earth's grasp. Their cloaking devices flickered, their once reliable technology now damaged and barely functioning. They fled under cover of darkness, navigating a dangerous path back to their hidden craft. Every step felt like a victory against overwhelming odds. By the time they reached their ship, the weight of their ordeal hung heavily on their shoulders. They were not the same confident beings who had first arrived on this unforgiving world. They had witnessed the impossible, and it had changed them. Upon returning to their homeworld, they were greeted not with fanfare, but with disbelief. The mission that had been considered routine had ended in disaster. The survivors gathered before the Ivor Collective, their expressions hollow, their confidence shattered. The collective demanded answers. How had a species like humans managed to turn the tables on some of the galaxy's most advanced operatives? The survivors spoke in hushed tones, recounting every detail: the humans' uncanny ability to adapt, their relentless pursuit, and their mastery over a world that defied logic. They described a species that did not merely survive on a death world but thrived, evolving alongside its dangers. The Ivor leaders listened in silence, their expressions growing more serious with each passing moment. Some refused to believe it, scoffing at the idea that a primitive race could have bested their elite. Others, however, felt a chill of recognition. They had underestimated the humans, and now they saw the consequences of their arrogance. A heated debate erupted within the council chambers. Some factions, embarrassed by the loss, pushed for a retaliatory strike, eager to reclaim their reputation and neutralize what they now saw as a credible threat. They argued that humans, if left unchecked, could become a destabilizing force in the galaxy. They wanted to attack swiftly, before humanity's reach extended any further. But others, more cautious, urged restraint. They pointed to the human adaptability and resilience, arguing that open conflict with such an unpredictable species could lead to greater disaster. They feared the unknown depths of human ingenuity and tenacity, recognizing that the humans had already proven themselves far more formidable than anticipated. The debate continued, but the underlying truth was clear: they had made a critical mistake in underestimating the Deathworlders. News of the encounter spread quickly among the other species within the coalition and beyond. Whispers of human prowess, of their cunning and relentless nature, began to circulate in hushed tones. The term Deathworlder, once used mockingly, began to take on a new meaning, one filled with fear and respect. No longer were humans seen as mere inhabitants of a distant, hostile planet. They were seen as a force to be reckoned with, unpredictable and dangerous. Across the galaxy, other species began to take note. Some, who had previously dismissed humans as insignificant, began to reconsider their stance. A few even reached out to humanity, cautiously, seeking alliances or trade, curious to learn more about this species that had proven so capable. Others chose to maintain their distance, wary of provoking a species that seemed capable of turning any disadvantage into an opportunity. A shift had occurred in the galactic perception, and the ripples of that shift were felt far and wide. The surviving leader of the alien reconnaissance team found himself haunted by their encounter. He had been so certain, so confident in his technology, his training, his understanding of how the galaxy worked. Now, he felt a gnawing doubt, a realization that everything he had known was flawed. He began to speak out, warning others about the humans. He told them that they had made a grave error in assuming they could control or manipulate a species born on a death world. He warned that humans were different, not bound by the same rules, not limited by the same fears. He spoke of how they had thought themselves predators, only to discover they were prey in a game they had never understood. And as he spoke, he felt a cold certainty settle over him. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless worlds and species, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. But in the humans, he had seen something unique, something terrifying. They were not just survivors. They were hunters shaped by a world that demanded constant vigilance, innovation, and resilience. They were a species that thrived on challenge, that saw every obstacle as a test to be overcome. And that, he realized, was what made them truly dangerous. The Ivor Collective and its allies continued to debate their next steps, but the surviving leader knew one thing for certain: they had only glimpsed the surface of what humans were capable of. As he looked out into the stars, he understood that while they had thought they were the observers, they had always been the observed. While they believed they were the ones in control, they had always been at the mercy of a force they could neither predict nor fully comprehend. And now, they were left to wonder just how much more the humans were capable of, and what the true cost of underestimating them might be.